Dzień dobry, assalamu alaikum, ciao, konnichiwa, bonjour, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Ken at 10. How are you today? Hope you're doing well. Friday again. Wow, how quickly it seems to come around. Did you see the eclipse? No, me neither. It's behind the clouds here. I don't know whether it was where you are, but we couldn't see it. Right behind the clouds at the perfect time when you think, right, we're going to see the Ring of Fire eclipse today. And it just didn't happen for us. Obviously, Euro's coming up. We're excited about that. If you joined us for the first time, thank you for coming along. We are live every weekday. It's Ken at 10. My name's Ken. It's 10, and we're James Alexander Estate Agents based in Norbury, southwest London, southwest 16 to be precise, nestled firmly between Croydon to the south and Streatham to the north. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Sorry about the noise in the background. We are very much a London area, which involves lots of ambulances and particularly fire brigade vehicles, and that's because we're just along the road from the fire station. So news today, property news today. First of all, we just finished a podcast. I'll be uploading that shortly, and I'll give you a little banner to how you can get to that. And the podcast this week is all about negotiating for buyers and sellers and current update on the market. And I'm saying a number of things at the moment. You know, what we're finding out, massive pressure. Pressure is probably the most apt word right now. Massive pressure from solicitors are arguing with each other. Solicitors are arguing with agents. They're arguing with their buyers. I'm not saying it's all them. Some are very good. Some are very poor. Sometimes they dig into positions because, of course, solicitors are employed to be good at argument. And sometimes that can lead to a position where both sides can be intransigent when they're entrenched in an argument. And then when you speak to the buyer and seller of those properties, you find that the issue that both solicitors are arguing about is of no consequence to either buyer or seller. It's a point of law, which is so menial that it means nothing. But when the solicitors are arguing about it, it's holding things up. And often this is where the agent can come in. We may not have as much financial knowledge, as much legal knowledge rather, as solicitors, but quite often we can see the wood for the trees when it is what they're trying to say to each other. And quite often we can negotiate and mediate between solicitors and make the thing work. And where it's really frustrating right now is some solicitors are actually not speaking to agents. And some agents are bad and they're just about the money and they're just saying, oh, was it exchanged yet? But a good agent should be about understanding what the problem is, communicating with both sides what the problem is, so that we can provide information from the buyer or the seller, which helps the transaction to complete. Communication is so critical in this business, and it's so poor so often. And right now, there's going to be a lot of arguments, a lot of finger pointing over whose fault it is that we haven't reached that June 30th deadline and therefore saved £15,000. As I've said many times, I think we're at one of the most interesting points in property buyers and sellers history with the June deadline, because the question is, of course, what comes next? You know, last time we had such a deadline was in the late 80s, and it was a catastrophe when that ended. This time around, it's a little bit different. Why? Number one, interest rates are still low. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, interest rates were very high and increased steadily, causing the crisis. And the second thing is, or the third thing, in fact, is that this time around, it's tapered. So we have the June deadline, then we have the September deadline, meaning that rather than there being no incentive to buy after the end of June, there still is an incentive, albeit a smaller one. It's at the 250 point, and it's no mistake that the average price in the UK is around 250, meaning the vast majority of people won't be affected by the change from June to September, giving a full year for many buyers to make sure. And actually, if you're buying at $500,000 plus, 15,000 is a lot of money, but it shouldn't be the basis on which you're making a buying decision. If you're moving because you'll save 15,000, you're moving for the wrong reason. You should be moving because it's right for you to move. But yeah, I think that the market won't fall off a cliff. Honestly, I think it'll be fine, but really interesting to see what happens next, because nobody can really say, nobody knows. This is all new, and especially bouncing out the pandemic as well. How will that go with a new variant? Vaccinations working well. Now, there's pros, there's cons, but it's all leading up to a real interesting point in time at the end of June. As I've said many times, what I expect to happen is there'll be many acrimonious separations between buyer and seller. We'll see a lot of stock coming back to market from fallouts of buyers and sellers where one blames the other for not meeting the deadline. Sometimes it'll be a buyer's fault, sometimes a seller's fault, sometimes a solicitor's fault, sometimes nobody's fault. It just happens. But inevitably, when lots of money is lost, there will be finger pointing, and that will lead to some properties coming back to market early July. So that's quite interesting because there's an undersupply anyway. So those properties that come back to market, we're finding are selling quite quickly anyway, even with people with the knowledge that they're not going to make that June deadline, which is encouraging and shows that confidence here is not just about the June deadline. It's more than that. People have seen it as an opportunity to move. The great thing about moving when everybody else is that the supply opens up and you've got more chance of not just selling, but actually finding what you want. It's not all about the money. And I've said for a long time, a lot of people think estate agents, it's in their interest that prices go up and up and up. And actually, none of us want to end up in a bust, and a boom results in a bust. Fact, we don't want that. What we want is a soft landing, and we want property prices to slow up, not stop, just slow up, so people can expect and anticipate a gradual increase in prices. Just give them enough confidence to buy and know that their money is protected by the market being reasonably secure. And actually, when you look at it over the medium to long term, there's little that can give you more security than good old bricks and mortar, including gold and certainly Bitcoin. Apart from that, a couple of headlines that caught my eye today. One is that the financial director of a group called Heron in the Express, a guy called Matt Coulson, has suggested a cap on standard variable rates. Now, this is an interesting and really good idea, I think. What it is, lenders, and this is not financial advice, by the way, seek independent financial advice if you're getting a mortgage. Lenders sometimes, when people are trapped in properties that they don't want to be in, can end up charging the person that cannot refinance because, for instance, they have cladding on their building, their standard variable rates, which can be very, very unreasonable, many multiples of the base rate, causing people an affordability issue. And it's the very people that can't afford it because they have a cladding problem in the first place. That's why they can't refinance. That's why they can't move. And it's very unreasonable then that those lenders penalize those people. It really is. And what he suggested is, it's actually from the UK Mortgage Prisoners Action Group. And it says, we feel 13 years of inaction from successive governments, despite putting forward numerous workable solutions, we've waited long enough. The FCA review serves only to delay a solution even longer and prolong the struggle for those that have been holding on to their homes in these most difficult circumstances. And I agree with that. I think there should be a cap relative to current interest rates that lenders can charge on top of that to any existing borrowers. If the borrower's stuck in their home, they shouldn't seek to profit from that. So that's an interesting one, and hope they have some success with that. A new first-time buyer firm, as was mentioned in the Daily Mail, again, not financial advice. And this is a family lending platform. And what it does, it assists buyers by brokering a small interest-only mortgage on their parents' or relatives' homes, thereby giving them that deposit that so often is the barrier for first-time buyers. So that's interesting, isn't it? Now you've got a situation where you can find firms that will help you to get the deposit from other avenues, the bank of mum and dad or relatives, if you're lucky enough, buy a small refinance on their property, or a big one if it's a bigger home. And if you're lucky enough that they'll provide that for you. And then on top of that, with a 95% mortgage now available, and more mortgages becoming available for people that require high percentage loan to values, with the government underwriting the scheme, really interesting, and will hopefully serve to provide more first-time buyers with the mortgages they need, so that we can get those flat buyers that are now coming out of this crisis, the ones that have now got the EWS1 certificate and can sell those higher-rise flats, which are offering quite good value for money now. So, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out. Certainly at the moment, we're seeing more first-time buyers coming along. Long may that continue, because I've said for a long time, my view is that first-time buyers are the key to a stable market, because as long as they need those flat buyers will always want to move on to their first home with a garden when they have children. And it helps everyone to get involved, get on the market, and get on the property ladder. And that's what we need right now. So apart from that, the Euros are coming. Are you excited? We are. Love the Euros. I'm always optimistic about England's chances, but we do seem to have a very good squad. And we're very much excited about the first games today. Hope you are too. We'll be back on Monday with another edition. Apart from that, obviously, Friday's a big day for us. We're looking to make sure that every single buyer that's looking is looking through us at the properties that our clients have commissioned us to sell for them. And so we're on the phone literally all day long, calling people. Are you still looking? Can we help you find? What's the best one you've seen? Why are you moving? Trying to find out, get underneath the hype and find out why people really want to go. So we have the same picture in our minds that they've got in theirs, so we can sell them the right house for their needs. So stay safe and well, look after your family and friends. Have a fantastic day and a fantastic weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Until then, take care.